Welcome to Marin Voices and Views. With Lawrence A. Strick, I'm Peter B. Collins. Today, we talk to two of the three candidates running for Marin County Supervisor in District 2. This election follows the resignation and death of Hal Brown and Governor Brown's appointment of Katie Rice to complete Hal Brown's term. Katie Rice will be joining us in our second segment, and in a moment we'll meet David Weinsoff. The third candidate, Eva Long, was not able to join us due to scheduling problems. Dr. Long has an impressive resume with 3 advanced degrees and many years of experience as a management consultant. In Marin, she has served on the Ross Valley Sanitary District Board and as a trustee of the College of Marin since 1999. You can find out more about Eva Long at her website, voteforevalong.org. That's vote, the number 4, evalong.org. David Weinsoff is an attorney specializing in environmental law and predatory lending, and he is in his second term on the Fairfax Town Council. David, welcome.
Thank you and good afternoon.
Why are you running for supervisor?
Well, it's time for us to change course, I think, on the Board of Supervisors. The board has been unable to adequately corral the pension problem that we've had. And I think even more importantly in the news lately, the complete failure to bring home and cross the finish line with the Grady Ranch project. And I contrast this with my 6 years of experience on the Fairfax Town Council, in which we've, in these most extraordinarily difficult economic times, managed to have 6 budgets, all balanced and not a single layoff. And I might say that on the pension side, as we sit here today, we're fully funded on pensions and also on post-retirement health care. Great challenges that the council and town staff have corralled and been able to fully implement.
Well, the pension issue is forefront these days, and it seems like it's a growing concern of the county budgetary-wise and for hires. What have you done in Fairfax that helps you understand what's going to happen in the county, and what have you learned in Fairfax that you might want to implement for the countywide pension program?
You know, we had an extraordinary experience in 2011, in the heat and the heart of this. The council did something that most local governments in the county doesn't do, which is the council divided itself up, and individually, we didn't just off-book the pension conversation. We actually sat in and did hands-on negotiations ourselves. And the result was not only success, aided immeasurably by the generous concessions by employees in tough economic times. But what we ended up seeing is the generosity seen in sharing the cost of retirement on the pension side, actually beginning to pay toward half of the retirement, as well as our establishing what's called Tier 2s, new employees taking benefits that are less generous than those of the prior generation. So this was a very unique experience to have that sort of hands-on experience to roll up your sleeves, as so many of us do that are electeds in local government, and really dig into the issue.
But what are the limits on how much can be done locally? Because state law and the big pension funds for the teachers and for public employees, they set a lot of the terms for local pension programs. So at what point do we have to punt and say, well, Governor Brown's 12-point plan, if the legislature implements it, will that free local government to move to hybrid plans and other approaches that the actuaries are proposing?
I think you're going to see over time different techniques. We call it the toolbox of ideas. And I think many of them will come into play. The most important thing is that, unlike in some of our sister states like we saw in Wisconsin last year, we will always resolve this problem through collective bargaining. So whatever the tools are that we all decide to move forward on, it's going to be in close cooperation with our bargaining units.
So are you suggesting, I'm trying to get this in my mind, You're suggesting that individual supervisors actually roll up their sleeves, enter in negotiations with the various other stakeholders in this game rather than vending it out? Is that what's been happening now?
That's not what's been happening now, but if you're a supervisor with a six-figure salary, roll up your sleeves, get into the muck and mire of this extraordinarily difficult debate, and do the work. Don't off-book it just to staff.
Are the supervisor stakeholders in the pension problem? Do they get a pension?
Yes, they do.
If you were a supervisor, would you forego that pension, or have you thought that through at this
Yes.
point? You'd forego it.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your thinking about the SMART train. That's a very important issue to many people, and many of us who voted for it and support it are concerned that it's not properly and adequately funded.
Yeah, you know, I have an interesting feeling about the SMART train, which is I think it's going to be successful. But I think even more important than that, I think we're going to see that innovation, that extraordinariness that we see among Californians and particularly in Marin. I see the SMART train as being a spur to sort of ancillary transportation opportunities. What they will be, I think the imagination of the community is going to come forward. I just have this sense that at the end of the day, we're going to see that this is the beginning of one path to free up Highway 101 and sort of get us out of the gridlock.
I'm a little confused about your answer to Peter's question. My concern with the SMART train is it going to get done?
Oh, yes.
You believe that there's no problems and that's going to be done, and what do you foresee is going to be completed by SMART? Where is it going to come? Where is it going to go?
Yeah, will it end at Larkspur?
Yeah.
How is it going to help us?
Yeah, I see at the end of the day that if it's not to Larkspur, if we don't have the connection readily to the ferry, then that is just horrific planning. So I think it's going to, at the end of the day, go to Larkspur. Might not be in this first phase, but it will get to Larkspur, and I see it going north of Santa Rosa. Will it go all the way to Cloverdale? That was the promise made, and in government, a promise made has to be a promise met. But that is going to be quite an extended period of time.
I guess the end of the day, it could be a very long day once they have these buses coming from downtown San Rafael to take you to Larkspur. That's my understanding of what they're thinking at this point.
I think that's where they are right now, but I think given time and additional budgetary resources as it comes through the sales tax, I think we're going to see that. I might also say, it's a little speculative, but on bonding issues, what we're seeing at the municipal level, we're able to go out and get extraordinarily generous bonds because, I don't want to say it's a silver lining because it certainly isn't, but because of the recession, we're seeing excellent bond rates.
Now, in District 2, Ross Valley flood control issues are always a problem.
Yes.
Or it's an issue. How do you see that? Is it okay now? Do we need changes? How is it going to be improved? Does it need to be improved?
Well, I sit on Flood Zone 9, one of the advisory board members, since Fairfax rejoined Flood Zone 9 a couple of years back after the flood. My feeling is the train has left the station. We have now approved a number of, the Department of Public Works has to get all the credit. They have come up with a number of excellent ideas. The advisory board has now approved them in concept. They go to the Board of Supervisors. The funding is well underway with regard to, there was a flood fee. Hopefully we'll be able to match finances from state and federal sources. I think the train has left the station. The real challenge now for the electeds is to make sure the Department of Public Works has sufficient staff to implement it, a great challenge, and also that we keep a careful eye that it moves forward as promised.
David, I live in District 2 in the Ross Valley. The sanitary district is ready to ratchet up my rates out of the stratosphere. And every time I flush, I think about it. It appears this agency is out of control. I realize it is a joint powers authority that is not directly responsive to the Board of Supervisors. But if you win election to District 2 Supervisor, what will you do to at least monitor, if not oversee, the work of the sanitary district?
Well, I can tell you so far over the last 2 years, I've authored the resolutions approved by the Fairfax Town Council to, under the Prop 218 objection, to actually file the objections on behalf of the town of Fairfax. But that's only the tip of the iceberg here. What I've also been doing is with a number of other council members from other jurisdictions, actually advocating both publicly and in private discussions to say to this sanitary district, it's time for consolidation. We have just too much government in Marin. At times, it makes a lot of sense to sort of consolidate those. So what we have here...
But isn't there an issue that the pipes don't match, the systems are different, and that there are actually physical or mechanical problems in trying to merge?
No. I mean, over time, we will be able to make sure all of these systems, of course, do go to the Central Marin Sanitation Agency. Well, what I'm talking about here is, do you really need to have... Well, in the Ross Valley Sanitary District, they have a very, very, very high-paid administrative staff and a director. Do they really need, do each of these agencies need to have their own little fiefdom? Of course
And I don't
not.
know if, I don't want to offend the lawyers here, but they've been spending a lot on legal fees.
They seem to believe that they have an open checkbook. There's an election coming up there. I'm hoping for change on that board. And when we do that, it's time for this JPA to seriously look at consolidation with the neighboring jurisdictions.
So speaking of litigation, I think the county is about $25 million into this SAP computer system that's it's going nowhere. And it is in the middle of some litigation. Is that something that you think needs to be continued? Do you cut your losses and run, or?
Hiring New York lawyers to deal with this. The first thing I would ask is, was there no competent counsel right across the bridge or here in Marin? Litigation, as an attorney, is, as they taught us in law school, you failed your client. You should be able to do everything possible to resolve a problem outside of the courthouse. What I see here is just throwing bad money after good. These problems shouldn't arise in the first place, and at this point I have some serious questions if this is the path we should be going down.
David, give us 30 seconds on ABAG and affordable housing in Marin.
Well, on affordable housing, I invite everybody to come over to Fairfax and look at the two projects that we have underway. One, the Lutheran Church is engaged with the town in putting together a project for senior housing, and almost across the street, the old Mandarin Garden.
Sure.
The owner there is looking toward workforce housing. So in our little town, we're meeting our obligations on that with regard to the affordable housing mandate imposed by ABAG.
And so at the county level, you're willing to continue to work with ABAG. You don't want to drop membership.
No, I don't. My feeling on this is that you don't walk away from the table. Yes, they have taken wrong turns. Yes, they have angered the Marin community. That's just an opportunity to sit, drill down, and work very, very hard to make government work. Running away from the problem, it'll still be there at the end of the day.
David Weinsoff, candidate for supervisor in District 2. Thanks for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Katie Rice served as administrative assistant to Supervisor Hal Brown for 8 years before Supervisor Brown retired last year. She was then appointed by Governor Brown to serve out the remainder of Supervisor Brown's term. Before that, Katie was active in the Ross Valley community for many, many years. Clearly, she has a great insight to the issues that Supervisor Brown was working on for the past years. However, people are saying now, this was an inside job, you're an insider, we need new blood, why should she have the job? How do you respond to that?
Oh, I think I'm the kind of insider they might want to have, because I've been not only inside the job in terms of knowing the job of supervisor, working with Hal, and at the county, 8 years of understanding county government, learning about it and working in it, but I've been inside the community. I think that people want representatives who know the community, know the neighborhoods, know the issues, know the concerns. Particularly in local government, we have the ability to send people to represent us who we actually do know and who we've had the opportunity to have relationships with and build some trust and respect. So I am from the inside. I'm from the inside of this community, and frankly, have the kind of experience I think that people want in terms of knowing how county government works.
What unfinished business of Hal Brown is a high priority for you in this interim period and if you're elected to a full term in your own right?
Well, this interim period isn't a very long period. Then the unfinished business, I think, is the ongoing business and always has been never ending. And that is the two primary things that Hal worked on and will always be concerns in this county and things I have to work on are traffic and congestion and the risk of flood and fire. Those were two primary drivers for a lot of Hal's work. And there were, interim solutions and programs to try to address those issues, the public safety and the traffic, but they're not problems that are to go away, not out of any fault of Hal's or anyone else who serves. It's just the fact of living here. So.
Well, particularly flood in your area, in District 2. Are you satisfied with the flood district as it stands now and the job they're doing, or do you see room for improvement, or what's going on with that issue for you?
So the Ross Valley Flood Protection and Watershed Program, that was a big, heavy push of Hal's after the flood of 2005. And it's really an important program, and it's important not only in terms of what it has the potential to provide with regards to flood protection, but also the environmental piece, the restoration, the fish passage issues, the water quality aspects of it. And additionally, it has the ability to do a little economic stimulus through a lot of these infrastructure projects that are part of the program. What's been done so far has been fairly invisible because it's the planning, it's been in the planning side and the development of the capital improvement plan, which was finalized last year. And now we're actually entering the environmental phases of some of the larger projects, some of the main projects. And so my concern and what I anticipate and will be directing a lot of my attention and focus on will be towards making sure this program continues to roll out and stays on pace. So it's a priority for me. I think it's really important. I think it has an enormous potential in terms of improvements for the community, but it's also going to take continued leadership and push on my part, and also making sure I have community support and buy-in. No doubt we're going to have some people push back. I think they'll on projects as they come to the table. That's to be expected. But I think if we can keep the larger community focus and voice in positive support behind the overall goals and objectives, that'll get us a long way.
From flood control to wastewater, the Ross Valley Sanitary District is proposing a huge rate increase.
Yep.
The critics talk about a lot of money wasted on litigation. Members of the board who voted against this huge rate increase and the construction plan say that it's not well planned. As a supervisor, we recognize you don't have direct oversight over the sanitary district. It's a separate entity. But you certainly can bring the community together around these issues. How do you propose to deal with the sanitary district, and do you think that it's out of control?
I think, and we've followed this, I have followed it. Hal had his eye on this ball a few years back. And obviously with this the rate proposal, the increase, as well as the bond issuance attached, everybody has become aware of it again. I am in agreement that certainly in the past, there's been some poor decisions on the part of that board and or management with regards to how they deal with their where they're spending money. A lot of money spent on litigation, not so much money spent on putting pipes in the ground. There has been decisions made to grow their agency in terms of increasing staff. I think they went from 17 to 32 or something a couple years ago. In a time when government was shrinking, this district and agency was growing. I am concerned about the rate increase, not because I don't think that that the infrastructure has failings and needs to be worked on, but because there hasn't been a detailed plan laid out for the ratepayers, for us all to look at, so that we have some confidence in the fact that the rate increase will actually go towards what they're telling us it's going to be going towards. I do think there's a role for me to play in terms of being able to get the different stakeholders, the different municipalities and leadership there on board and talking together as well as with the sister agencies, which would be San Rafael Sanitation District and CMSA as well as Corte Madera. So there's a role for, I think, me to play, just like with the Ross Valley Watershed and Flood Protection Program, as being someone who brings people to the table. In terms of what the solution looks like, I think that needs to be determined by the group and with input from the community. Whether that means consolidation or what, I'm not sure. But the decision making shouldn't be driven by me, but I do believe that it is the role for the county supervisor in this instance to play is get people together and let's start talking about solutions here.
Another, I think, huge and perhaps transformative issue in the county is SMART. And the promise of SMART was one thing. Now we're hearing it might be something else. The cost is still unclear. What are your views on how you see SMART and how do you see it completing and how useful will it be if it's only completed to downtown San Rafael?
I think, first of all, I think that SMART's in better shape now than it was a year ago. I think that the change in management has been a good one, a positive one. I think that the financial situation has stabilized there. The decision to only go to San Rafael versus Larkspur was always, I understood a potential. So it didn't surprise me. My concern with SMART is that it provides the frequency and the capacity to meet the demand, and or that the demand meets the capacity and it's viable in terms of how much we subsidize it as taxpayers. The second concern I have with SMART is, are we going to be able to match up our local transit to move people from the from the platforms to where they need to go? There's not that many stops on the SMART line. So what is is Marin Transit going to be able to come up with the funding, and or is SMART going to provide the funding in order to shuttle people from Hamilton to wherever their job is, or from wherever the station is? I'm concerned about our ability to make sure that piece is in place, the linkage between the rail line and the job, and I'm concerned about the ongoing subsidy that needs to be provided to any transit project, any kind of transit where it's all subsidized, and SMART as well, and it's coming at a high cost. So I want it to be successful. I hope it gets running soon, but I think that we're going to be needing to work as agencies, SMART, the transit district, and frankly the jurisdictions that are served by it to help ensure its success.
I think some people may even think that they don't even believe it's going to be done. Do you think it's going to be completed?
At this point, I do. Yeah, I think they're on track. I don't know what environmental they might run into, but right now I'm feeling fairly confident about it, more confident than I was a couple years ago.
Katie, the local newspaper makes ABAG out to be some kind of a dangerous, murky, secretive organization, and the mandate for affordable housing is kind of translated into Soviet-style concrete block. At least that's the impression I get. How do we deal with the controversy and bring affordable housing in a sensible way to our communities that matches the demand that's projected for the future?
Well, I think that we have a current demand that we haven't met, let alone any future demand. But that's a little bit separate. But in terms of the genie, I have this image of the genie in the bottle, the ABAG, the picture of ABAG. I am not afraid of regional government, I think, and regional planning. I think there's a place for it. I think there's also a place to disagree and to be able to have a dialogue and potentially influence other members of any agency to go a different route. So I assume, and I know the county will continue to participate in ABAG, and I think it's the right thing to do. The concrete housing, tens of thousands of houses that supposedly we're going to have to build, or that sort of cartoon-like image, is erroneous in that We don't have to build the housing. We have local control. That said, and this is related to SB 375, SB 375 is very specific. You have local control at both the planning and the implementation level. But what it also spells out is if you want to have access to some of this regional monies for planning, you got to play ball with us. So that said, ABAG doesn't scare me, and I'm not worried about losing local control. And I think this community is going to stay very involved. All of our communities will stay involved and keep their eye on the ball of how we grow and how much we grow. With regards to how much affordable housing we build, I think that the demand is always going to exceed the supply. It does right now, and any additional growth in terms of our population that happens down the road is going to exceed supply. But that doesn't negate our responsibility to try to create what we can in smart ways and where it makes sense.
Supervisor Brown served forever, it seemed, and left a huge legacy. After your service, what legacy would we be talking about for you?
Oh, I don't, legacy, that sounds too old somehow.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Well, what achievements? What are we saying?
You know
Hey, Katie
what?
Rice was here. What happened here?
She served her district well. She served with common sense. She represented the community well. She stayed in touch with the community. I don't have any big agendas. I think this job is about making sure government is working well for the people. It's about staying in touch. Hal was the master of getting out there and not only building relationships. You get out there, you build relationships, but you also get to check the temperature. So I hope my legacy is that I did a solid job, and I was well respected, and I left the county in good shape.
Katie Rice, running for a full term as supervisor in District 2. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.